Hello, you have entered the House of Learning. I'm Kay Sullivan, and welcome to our first micro lecture series on direct knowledge. Now, this is a 4-part series. It's a micro lecture series, and each lecture is a 3-minute deep think. Now, be prepared because each deep think is a dense rabbit hole that you may need to listen to more than once. Now, what we are aiming to do is make these available on an interactive platform here shortly, complete with links for additional information and supplemental videos, some interview material, and other resources that you can continue your research and get more in-depth research beyond each 3-minute lecture. Now, this micro-series lecture is in 4 parts. The first part is entitled, What is Knowledge Creation? We're going to define it, we're going to talk about its foundational theories, and how it's applied. In the second part of this 4-part series, we are going to explore the idea of direct learning, and that is, how it is achieved, what is it, and how it departs from conventional learning techniques. Now, this leads us straight into the third part, where we look into game theory and mechanics and how it may facilitate direct learning experiences. And then finally, we're going to bring it all together in the last part of the series, in the 4th episode, where we will examine the emerging academic discipline called the learning sciences. And we're going to explore its method, its educational design, theories, some of its players and techniques, and frankly, I anticipate that this learning science is going to transform the terrain of education as we know it and our approach to learning in general. So with these 4 pieces together, this is going to give us the broad strokes of knowledge creation, and then together with the interactive platform, you can get more in-depth information and do your own directed research. So, without further delay, let's go ahead and open the first door in this series here at the House of Learning. This is episode 1, a 3-minute rabbit hole in our 4-part Deep Think series on direct knowledge. In this episode, we will be exploring knowledge creation. So get your gear, let's splunk this thing. Knowledge creation was popularized in 1997 by Nonaka when it was defined as, quote, an active control in the process of thinking that is used in learning situations. Now, lending further to its credibility, knowledge creation is also recognized as a property by U.S. tax regulations as an intellectual property. Now, there are many types of knowledge. You can refer to Alan Newell's knowledge level modeling or theories by Tim Menzies if you're interested. But in this deep think knowledge creation model that we do here, there are 4 primary depths: the know what, the know that, the know how, and the show how. So let's break it down. Level 1 is the know what. Here we have descriptive knowledge, we have declarative knowledge. As Bertrand Russell observed in 1905 in On Denoting, it is knowledge by acquaintance. Now, on this level, knowledge is described to us, it's given to us through an external source, and it is not direct knowledge. It's more of a understanding. Now, on level 2, the know that, this is where we get procedural knowledge, we get imperative knowledge. Now, this is closer to direct knowledge, but it's more like task knowledge. It's like being able to assemble a watch, but not really knowing how to design one or how to modify a design. Now, on the next level, level 3, we have the know-how. This is the implicit knowledge. Here we have the tacit knowledge. This is the stage by which we begin grasping direct knowledge. It is full apprehension derived internally. Now, this is a functional type of knowledge that allows us to explore new knowledge directly. Now, beyond this is level 4, this show how, and this is where someone's able to turn implicit knowledge into explicit knowledge in order to share with others and create models and strategies for implementation. Now, knowledge creation really begins on levels 3 and 4, which really distinguishes between having an understanding and having knowledge. Now, how do you know if information you have is an understanding or a knowledge? Ask yourself, was it ascertained directly, or was it given to you? Was it imparted on you by another? Or was it obtained directly through your own direct experience? Now that we've caught a scent of the direct experience required for knowledge creation, now let's get a little deeper in episode 2. And welcome to episode 2. This is a 3-minute rabbit hole in the 4-part Deep Think series on direct knowledge. From the House of Learning, I'm Kay Sullivan. In episode 1, we looked at knowledge creation. In this episode, we explore direct learning. Are you ready to get heady? Let's go. So most of us have come through the conventional learning institutions, which concentrate on the lower levels of instruction. They impart descriptive knowledge and procedural knowledge as the sum total of all knowledge available. But we can begin peeking behind the curtain by looking at constructivist theories and inquiry-based learning or discovery learning. Now, the constructivist approach emphasizes an approach of minimal guidance in the learning process. And this gained momentum in the 1990s and primarily uses a problem-based approach. Now, inquiry-based learning was developed in response to traditional forms of instruction and can be considered a constructivist philosophy, but it offers a whole spectrum of inquiry-based teaching methods. Now, similar to the constructivist ideas of learning, that build on experience from processes. It is assessed by how well the students develop experimental and analytical skills. Now, if we move on further and talk a little bit about the discovery learning. Now, this is a technique of inquiry-based learning in the constructivist approach. Now, my writing here. Now, credited with originating the discovery learning in the 1960s was Jerome Bruner, who states, quote, "Practice in discovering for oneself teaches one to acquire information in a way that makes information more readily available for problem solving." Now, it's basically learning by doing. Its tasks range from implicit pattern detection to constructing simulations to performing experiments. Now, the guiding principles would be, first, don't wait for the perfect question. 2, place ideas at the center of your work. 3, work toward the goal of obtaining implicit knowledge. And 4th, remain faithful to your line of inquiry. Now, to address the criticisms of this approach, especially in the instruction of beginning learners, let us move on to the next episode, and that is gaming and the direct learning experience. Come on in. You are deep in the House of Learning's Deep Think series on direct knowledge. In this episode 3, one in our 4-part micro series, we will be examining the idea of gaming as a method of direct learning. So let's get to it. Now, one of the many criticisms of direct learning methods, especially in the constructivist approach, which emphasizes little direct instruction, is that a learner with little background in a subject doesn't necessarily have the foundational knowledge to successfully complete a task or they may infer causation from mere correlation, which may lead to misconceptions or errors in conclusions. Now, through enhanced discovery learning, which was proposed by Marzano in 2011, this involves techniques to prepare the students for the quote discovery learning tasks. But I propose here that applying game theory and mechanics can actually guide the experience of discovery learning while still minimizing the need for direct instruction. That is, by placing an inquiry or intention of discovery within a gaming framework, the learner can guide their own strategies for problem solving without wandering too far outside of logical parameters. Now, this is done with game mechanics, and these guide the discoveries in a coherent order where knowledge and skills may be strategically ordered so as not to become detrimental to the student's cognitive load. Now, the basis for this can be found in the cascading information theory in game mechanics, which states that information can be released in minimal snippets to gain appropriate levels of understanding at each point in the game narrative. And so this is obviously a good way to build upon information without overloading them too quickly. Now, another obvious game tool to direct and motivate action is the use of achievements. These are essentially rewards for accomplishing tasks or progressing through lessons, and these can be presented through badges or leaderboards or by unlocking new levels or privileges. Now, there are many mechanics that can be employed through gaming, including epic meaning or loss aversion or countdowns or ownership or status or quests. Now, these can not only assist the learners in their own process of discovery, but it can help teach them how to architect logical frameworks of their own, to conduct inquiries and discoveries without the aid of a game construct around it. So with that, let us move on to the last part of this series and explore the science of learning in episode 4. And congratulations, you have arrived to the last stop in the House of Learning's micro-lecture series on direct knowledge. In this final episode, we're going to explore a 3-minute deep think on a new and emerging field of study called the learning sciences. So let's get to it. This area of study is dedicated to the systematic study and design of processes that support learning in diverse contexts and various learning age groups. Now, what the learning sciences does is it actively engages learning innovation and improvement of instructional technique. This interdisciplinary field includes theories and methods from the cognitive sciences, from computer science, from educational psychology, anthropology, applied linguistics, and technology design. And while it's still in the process of defining itself, it is by definition as a science aiming to employ the qualitative research and experimental study to facilitate learning in both formal and informal settings. Now, in the United States, it achieved its first foothold in academia around 1983 when Jan Hawkins and Roy P. proposed a joint program called Psychology, Education, and Technology, which actually gained a planning support grant by the Sloan Foundation. Now, in 1988, Northwestern University became the first to initiate a learning sciences doctoral program through their Institute of Learning Sciences and began accepting students as early as 1992. Now, since then, programs have begun to appear all around the world in institutions of higher learning, from the Institute of Technology to the University of Colorado to Stanford. And several academic journals have begun publication, starting as far back as 1991, as well as societies who have established themselves, including the International Society of the Learning Sciences, which established itself in 2002. Now, the design-based research methodologies that is employed in the learning sciences encourages innovation and innovative methods to establish accepted scientific methods found in other design sciences, such as engineering and computer sciences. And this helps develop new theories and new frameworks for conceptualizing learning and instruction and design processes, and even education reform. Now, it seeks to generate principles of practice to solve real education problems, and it gives it its inherent interventionist character, and even the character of a disruptive technology to the establishment. So there it is, the broad strokes of the learning sciences. In the next part, we are going to wrap it up and talk a little bit about what's coming up next. And this concludes this deep think on direct knowledge. I hope you were able to gain some enlightenment in this 4-part series. In this deep think, we have covered in the first part knowledge creation. In the second episode, we talked a bit about direct learning. In the third episode, we talked about game mechanics and its application to learning. And finally, we wrapped it up with some very broad information on the emergence of the learning sciences to uncover our first level of understanding of direct knowledge. Now, there's more to come in future Deep Think series. This particular lecture series will be available soon with a full interactive platform. I know that a lot of information was covered here, and there's a lot of terms and definitions that probably need to be examined and looked into. So through this interactive platform, we're going to offer you links and some supplemental interviews and additional videos to really flesh out the ideas here. If it interests you to pursue it further. So that does it for us here. I'm Kay Sullivan, and I want to thank you for joining me in this Deep Think rabbit hole, and for taking the time out to come with me and hang out here in the House of Learning.